What's up, guys? My name is Jake. Welcome to Abandoned, episode 16. This is the show where we talk about some of the coolest abandoned places in the world. So there's always been one place in the whole world that I've been really interested in. It's a perfect example of the classic American suburban mall, and that's the Rolling Acres Mall. So the Rolling Acres Mall is located in Akron, Ohio. Developed by Forest City Enterprises, the Rolling Acres Mall opened on August 6, 1975, as a perfect example of the American mall boom. When the mall first opened, it didn't gain much attention with its 21 stores. However, it began to gain some traction, and by the end of 1975, the mall had 50 stores. The first anchor store the mall had was Sears, until it was joined by JCPenney the following year. The mall became really popular as the years went on, as it catered well to families and young commuters. In 1978, the mall went through a massive expansion to add new retail space, and by this time the mall was pretty large. As the years went on, the mall continued to expand and grow. It had a rare two-story design for the area, housed a movie theater, and an impressive and expansive water fountain, and a promenade with palm trees. You never see malls in the north with palm trees anymore. Anyway, in 1995, the mall continued to grow when Target built its store next to the mall, and a 21,000 square foot passageway was constructed to connect the two. However, 4 years earlier, the mall made the poor decision to cut costs on security, and rather than employ off-duty police officers, they would employ normal mall security. This arguably led to the 1991 incident where a fight broke out just outside the movie theater. During this fight, it was reported that a gunshot was fired. This wasn't really good for the mall's image, but by 1995, it's arguably where the mall reached its peak. Specifically, the mall reached a capacity of 140 stores and an impressive 5 anchor stores. The mall had a parking capacity of 7,500 cars and housed 1.3 million square feet of retail space. Shortly after Target opened, the mall began losing stores, including the movie theater. In addition, the JCPenney was downgraded to become an outlet center, as well as the Dillard's, which also became something similar. In 1997, the nearby Summit Mall went through a multi-million-dollar renovation, with its local area booming. It seems as though Forest City Enterprise knew what was happening, and made the smart decision to sell the mall for $33.5 million to Bankers Trust in 2000. It wasn't long after until the mall was sold again for $2.75 million, a staggering $30.75 million less. By 2003, the mall was only at 50% occupancy. As more left, more stores became discounted and lesser quality than they were prior. During 2003, the cinema opened back up as a discount movie theater. Things were getting very bad for the mall, and it was made much worse when their first anchor store, Target, closed and relocated to nearby Wadesworth in early 2006. Later, in August of 2006, another anchor store, Dillard's, closed, which left the mall at an occupancy rate of 30 to 40%. As the slow economy crept on and the local area income not doing much better, teen gangs began to show up around the mall, and in early 2007, multiple stores inside the mall reported merchandise being stolen. This was actually later found out to be a homeless man living in one of the vacant stores. As 2008 rolled in, the mall was doing severely bad. In April, Macy's closed its store inside the mall. With so few tenants, the mall took some drastic measures to save money, like turning off their escalators and auctioning off mall fixtures. Things seemed to be so bad that it appears they stopped paying for their website as it went offline in early 2008. In summer of 2008, the cinema closed for its final time, which put the mall into the fear of not being able to pay for its $150,000 electrical bill.
There's a spirit to this mall. There's a soul here, and that spirit and soul will not allow this place to die.
Penny's has been here forever. I am so happy. Right next to them was a bank also.
I forget the name of those banks.
We have little people here, and it's the tenants, it's the people running the little restaurants. It's all a bunch of little people who are keeping a big dream alive.
People that came from Barberton and Norton, what are they going to do?
Well, we will be lost with something if this mall closes.
By October 2008, only 8 tenants remained, one being a church, another being a Dollarama, and several others being organizations. Finally, in fall of 2008, all Rolling Acres tenants were notified that the mall could no longer afford power and that the mall will close as soon as possible. However, this would not affect the 2 remaining anchor stores as they would still continue operations. The last few days of the mall were not only sad but creepily surreal. But then finally, on October 31st, Halloween Day 2008, the Rolling Acres Mall closed permanently as power was cut to the structure. This left the interior of the mall completely abandoned. In May of 2009, the mall was auctioned off online. However, with some initial interest prior, nobody bid. It wasn't until 2010 that a Californian-based company, Premier Ventures LLC, purchased the building for $3 million. At this point, very little was known about the company, and not too long after, Sears announced they would be closing their store by April 20th, 2011. This left JCPenney Outlet to be the only remaining store left in the structure. 2010 to 2011 were also the years that the mall began to be regularly broke into and scrapped. By 2010, much of the copper wiring and metal railings were removed by scrappers. By the time 2011 came in, weird and creepy things began to occur. Inside the mall is a pretty dangerous place. Throughout, there are tons of bullet holes and shot-out skylights. In April of 2011, a man trying to steal copper was electrocuted and killed when an electrical box exploded. The man was found on fire while holding bolt cutters. Later in the year, a 47-year-old man by the name of Timothy Kern vanished after responding to a Craigslist ad. Timothy was found dead in a shallow grave behind the mall. His death was linked to the Craigslist killers Richard Beasley and his 16-year-old accomplice, Brogan Rafferty.
Convicted Craigslist killer, 53-year-old Richard Beasley, showed no emotion Thursday as a judge sentenced him to death in Summit County Common Pleas Court.
On count 1, this court imposes the sentence of death.
In January of 2016, a body was found hanging from a tree beside the mall. Officials deemed this as an apparent suicide. With things in the area not improving, on December 31st, 2013, JCPenney Outlet closed permanently. This left the mall officially dead without any retailers. Premier Ventures began to act a little shady in its practices. They had stopped paying for property tax and stopped paying for security altogether in 2011. Each time the city attempted to auction off the property, Premier Ventures filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, which prevented the auction to take place. However, with the most recent time, prosecutors forced Premier Ventures to file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, which meant they would not be allowed to file for another bankruptcy within a 9-month period. This would allow the city to try and auction off the building. While Premier Ventures was secretly attempting to find another buyer, it was revealed that the company had no offices in California at all, and instead was based out of Delaware. Currently, the company owes the county $1.2 million in property tax. So whoever ends up buying the property needs to pay that back. The mall is scheduled to go on a sheriff auction on June 7, 2016, and if no buyers are found, it will go again on the 27th. If no bids are placed through the auction, no buyer is found with Premier Ventures, or if they don't pay their taxes, then the property will go to the city of Akron. Premier Ventures never announced why they bought the property and what they plan to do with it. As of 2016, 2 businesses operate out of the mall. One in the former Target, which operates as a storage facility. And the reason why I wanted to show you this is because when they built this, I'm assuming they didn't take out any of the old Target fixtures, because a lot of the Target stuff is actually still in here. And if you look at that right there, you can actually see some of the old neon. As for the other business, it operates as a recycling facility out of the former Sears. As for the rest of the building, it sits completely abandoned. Since around 2010, the mall has been beaten up pretty heavily. While yes, there are larger abandoned malls like the Randall Park Mall, which is also in Ohio, to me, I just think Rolling Acres is a perfect example of the ideal 1970s suburban mall that met its end in the 2000s. It really is such a surreal place, and its historical significance makes it one of the most, if not the most, infamous abandoned malls ever. Personally, I'm really interested in abandoned retail locations, and I would honestly love to see this place before it's gone. It really is a great American mall that met a sad end.